Renewable from our Sales Manager Middle East. Today, I'm going to present mandatory contactor business. I hope everybody knows about the contactors, but is the right time to give us a more idea about the contactors. Today, I'm going to cover the topics like definitions, basic construction, operating principle of the contactors, and which standard applies for the contactors and the selection procedures. So let's start with the contactors. The first question, like, what is a contactor? A contactor is an electromechanical switching device which is used for the switching of power circuit. It is a remotely operable device. Contactor used in the light switch to the most complex industrial machines. Is frequently on and off, opening and closing the circuit, making and breaking the circuits. It is used in lighting, motor, heater, and transformer circuit. So just to understand more about that, like it has a high and mechanical electrical life. Do you know how many times it operates in per hour? It's 1,800 times, 1,800 in 1 hour. And what is the durability? What is the mechanical operation? Is a 15 millions. It's too many times, frequently making on and off. So give us a more idea about the contactors. Contactor is controlled by a circuit which is much lower power than the switch circuit. Contactor comes in many forms, which varying the capacity and the features. Unlike circuit breaker, the contactor is not intended to interrupt a short circuit current. But contactor is breaking the current several ampere to the thousand of amperes, 24 volt DC to many kilowatt. When talk about the size, it's coming from the like a small enough to pick up one hand to the large device, approximately a meter per side. Now we talk about the constructions. It consists of 4 major parts. It's consists of electromagnets, is like a coil, fixed and moving contacts, arc quenching system, and housing. Now coil is the most crucial component of the contactor. Driving force that is required to close the contacts provided by the coil. Coil and contacts are protected by the enclosures. Enclosures provide insulation and protection from the personal touching the contacts. Protective enclosure is made from different material such as polycarbonate, polyester, nylon, bakelite, or thermoplastics. Now talking about the contacts. Contact is another important component of the electrical device. Current carrying task of the contactor is done by the contacts. There are different type of contacts in a contactor, like power contacts, auxiliary contacts, and contact springs. Now, very important part of the contactor is what is the basic working principle of the contactor? It converts electrical energy into the mechanical energy. When it supply is given to the coil, current passing through the electromagnets or coil, magnetic field is produced which attracts the moving core of the contactors. Electromagnets coil draw the more current initially. The moving contact is propelled by the moving core. Force developed by the electromagnet hold the moving and fixed contact together. The normally closed contact completes the circuit between the fixed contact and the moving contacts. These permits the current pass through the contacts to the load. But when current removes, the coil is de-energized and open the circuits. The spring returns the electromagnet core to the initial position and open the contacts. So this is very important, like how it operates. Now another important thing is utilization category. The contactor is comply as per the IEC standard 60947-4. In this one, very important about utilization categories, like depend on the application, we have to decide the capacitor duty. Like normally we are using contactor for the squirrel cage motor. Then we have to provide AC 3 duty contactor for the squirrel cage AC motors. But for the capacitor bank, we have to provide AC 6B duty. And for like transformers, we have to AC 6. Or depend on the application, we have to decide the duty. So this is very important, like which application we provide which type of contactors. Normally in our normal uses, we are providing AC 3 duty contactors. Now talking about the selections is very important. You have to do proper selection of the contactor. It avoids many problems and maximizes the efficiency. The major factor is supply voltage. So you should know is a AC supply or DC. Then the main supply is a single phase or three phase. Then talking about the installed capacity. So what is the kilowatt of the rating or full load current, or is the lighting? Then what is the lighting capacity, full load current of the lighting? Then load characteristics. Is a which type of load? Is a transformer, capacitor bank, or motor? Then as per my previous slide, you have to decide the duty of the contactors. For the motor, you have to decide AC3, or if it is capacitor, then you have to do AC6B. Then environmental condition. Normally we are providing normal environmental condition, but sometimes is a hazardous application as well. So that you should aware. Then the standards. You are supplying for the IC standard or the NEMA standard. Normally in this region, we are supplying mostly IC standards. Now talking about the applications where we are using mostly. So most of the application is like a electrical motor and lighting, as well as we are supplying for the furnace, capacitor bank, heaters, etc. So these are all the applications. Thank you very much for listening me.
Thank you, Nirmal. It was very informative to know the basics and the principles of magnetic contactors. So we have arranged the webinar in such a way that you can get to know the basics of a product, and with continuation to that, we are going to explain to you what are the ranges that LS has with us. And for that, I would like to invite Palminder Dhillon from LS Electric Europe office, and you can continue, Palminder. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rashid. Hello, everyone. I am Palminder Dhillon from LS Electric Netherlands, Europe. So I will be covering three components for the motor protection series that LS Electric provides. That's MetaSOL contactors, mini MetaSOL contactors, and manual motor starters. So starting with the MetaSOL contactors. Now, the main duty of the MetaSOL contactor is basically to the on and off switching of the motor and the protection of overload current. The complete lineup that LS Electric provides to its customer is starting from the range 6 ampere up to 2650 ampere with 3 and 4 pole and with 11 frame sizes. The maximum power that we provide is available up to 900 kilowatt at 440 volt with AC3 duty type. More safe. We have an improved arc protection from seal structure. Now I will be talking about this more in the upcoming slide. Next, moving to the rated insulation voltage, we provide 1000 volt over 40 ampere frame sizes, and impulse withstand voltage is 8 kilovolt over 40 ampere frame size. Then the electrical and the mechanical endurance that we provide is up to 2.5 million and 0.5 million respectively. User convenience. We have a compact size and easy connection for the LS MetaSOL magnetic contactors. And we also have a direct adapter, which is available for direct mounting between the MetaSOL contactor and the manual motor starters. High products reliability. We have type 2 coordination available with worldwide certification. We have IEC standard, we have UL for America, and then we have IC standard type tested, attested by KEMA in the Netherlands and Kerry in Korea. Now, as Nirmal had already given you a brief on the application and where control, the MetaSOL contactors are used. Firstly, it is the main duty of the MetaSOL contactor is to control the on and off switching of the motors. Next, the control the rotation and reverse rotation of motor through reversing contactors. And the next one is the protection from the overload current. Now, talking about the lineup, as I mentioned, that we have the range available from 6 ampere to 2650 ampere. The lower ampere range is from 18 up to 100 ampere frame size with rated insulation voltage of 690 up to 22 ampere frame size, and above that it's 1000 volt. We have type 2 coordination with braking capacity up to 150 kA at 415. Now the thermal overload relays, they completely depend on the ampere frame size that you select. So it ranges from there. And the tripping class characteristic is class 10 and 20. The higher ampere frame sizes are available from 150 up to 2650 ampere frame size. Now for the 4-pole, it's available up to 800, and 3-pole, it's available up to 2650. And again, type 2 coordination, 150 kA. The overload relays, they depend on the ampere frame size of the MetaSOL contactors. Now, as I mentioned in the first slide, how we have an improved arc protection seal structure. Now, if we compare our MetaSOL series with an old conventional contactor series, it has an open structure, so it does not quench the arc. And as you can see, the arc just goes. So in the MetaSOL series, since we have a sealed structure, it not only quenches the arc, it also prevents any dust or mist, anything entering in the contactors. So that's one of the benefits. Next, the type 2 coordination. Now, the difference between type 1 coordination and type 2 coordination is that type 1 is used for the standard starters and type 2 is used for the high performance starters. In type 1 coordination, under the short circuit condition, if there is a short circuit fault, you will have to replace the MetaSOL contactor, any contactor basically, and you cannot reuse it again. Whereas in type 2 coordination, you can reuse the contactor again. That's the main difference, and hence we have the type 2 coordination. Easy assembly. Now, this is one more feature that I would like to highlight and compare with the old conventional contactor is that previously, the control panel makers, they had to basically connect the line and load phase with each line and load phase had to be connected in order to make a reversing contactor. But we have a wiring kit which reduces the time to connect it with the wires. We also have auxiliary contact, 2 NC contact, in order to make it as an electrical interlock. So this not only helps reduces the time, but it's also very user convenient. We will be talking about the accessories now of the MetaSOL contactor, starting with the damping resistors. These are used for the capacitor bank, and they're also known as capacitor units. All you have to do is you'll have to use a contactor along with the accessory of the damping resistor in order to use it in the capacitor bank. And we have this available up to 800 ampere frame sizes. Next auxiliary contact units are side mount or the front mount aux units. We have contactor relays with 4, 6, 8 poles with AC and DC coils. This is similar to the reversing contactors. We have interlock unit, wire kit, surge units, replacement coils for AC-DC coil available up to 800 ampere frame size. Safety cover, this is to prevent the dust from entering the contactors and to prevent the arc. We also have enclosures with IP40 rated, and we have metal enclosures and plastic enclosures up to 100 ampere frame size with on and off button or without the button. For the thermal overload relays, we have remote reset unit with the cable length starting from 400 up to 600 mm. And again, for the thermal overload relay, we have a separate mounting unit if you do not want to connect it directly with the MetaSOL contactors. Now we will move on to the numbering system. Now MetaSOL contactor series is denoted by the standard name MC series. So that's how it got the name. So MC series, with the next you select is the rated current, whichever ampere range that you would like to select. Next is the version. If you want the standard or the reversing contactor, you select that. Next is coil voltage, if you want AC or DC coil, frequency 50 or 60 hertz, and lastly auxiliary contact. So as you can see, it's very easy selection. You can select however you would like to based on your application. Now, thermal overload relays, how you select those? We denote it with the series name MT series, and then comes the frame size as whatever you have selected for the contactor, the same ampere frame size. And now the relay version. We have 3 relay versions: non-differential, differential, and class 20. I just want to highlight the main difference between non-differential and differential. In differential, we have a phase failure detection, and non-differential we do not have. That's the main difference. So based on your application, you can select that. And lastly, relay setting current. So this is just for your reference. Even for the auxiliary contacts and the accessories, we also have the numbering system. You can always refer this through our catalogs. It's very easy, user convenient. Now the next one is the mini contactor. Contactor, the basic aim or the duty of the contactor is for the switching on and off of the switching of the motor and the protection from the overload current. So as the name suggests, the main difference between the contactors and mini contactor is this is used for low power consumption. That is, the maximum power consumption over here is 7.5 kilowatt. And it's used in the application like lights and electric heating circuits and so on. So the ampere range available in here is 6 ampere up to 16, and with 3 and 4 pole. And the user convenience, that easy connection with 4 terminal options: screw type, fast on, cage clamp, and solder pin. High product reliability, again, we have worldwide certifications, IC, UL, so on. And one more thing, that it can be driven from the output of PLC without any requirement of relay between the contactor and the PLC. Next is the lineup: 6 ampere up to 16 ampere, 4 types of terminals. You can denote the terminals based on, as you can see in this table. Screw clamp is denoted with 6M, and then fast on with 6MF, and so on. So the AC1 rating is 20 ampere constant. Overload relay is type GT series. And the setting current range, which you can select, is from 0.1 to 0.16 up to 12 to 16 ampere. Tripping class is class 10. Next is the thermal overload relay. It's similar to the one with contactors. You can directly mount it, or if you want, we also have a DIN rail or a screw mount option. Also, it has 2 types of relay versions, differential and non-differential. Differential being having the phase failure protection and so on. We also have a remote reset option. The auxiliary contact, it depends on whichever terminal that you choose. The accessories are similar to the ones which we have for the contactors. I'm just basically highlighting which all accessories we can give you. Timer unit, surge absorber unit, separate mounting unit, and interlock unit. Now talking about the numbering system, mini contactors are denoted with the GM series name. So you start with GM. Next is which coil that you would like to go ahead with, AC coil or DC coil. Next is the ampere range that you would like, which ampere current. Mini contactor is just a standard M alphabet. Then the combination, if you want the normal one, or the standard one, or the reversing type. Then you have to select the terminal type: screw, fast on, or pin, solder pin, cage clamp, and so on. Lastly, the number of poles. Thermal overload relay is the GT series. Then the protection type, we have 2 in here: differential and non-differential. Then the setting range, depending on your application. Then mini contactor, the standard letter. Then the next comes the mounting type, if you want the direct mount or the separate mount. And if you're selecting the non-differential type, you'll have to select the bimetal element, 2 or 3. Now we move on to the manual motor starters. Now manual motor starters, they are used for the motor protection. They're used for the protection of group installations or circuits and so on. The complete lineup, we have range starting from 0.16 ampere up to 100 ampere with 3 ampere frame sizes available, 32, 63, and 100. It's very user convenience. How? Because of the easy connection, DIN rail and screw mounting. Then we have a handle lock in off position. We have 3 position operators, on, off, and trip. And we also have a trip test available in order to check the trip mechanism. High product reliability, again, it's because of the worldwide certifications, IEC, UL, and so on. We have a class 10 overload trip characteristic, as well as we have an eco-friendly product available in the MMS series, which is IE3 rated motors. So talking about MMS, we have 3 types of MMS: standard type function, high braking type function, and high braking instantaneous type function. Standard type function, we have an adjustable thermal release, magnetic release, trip class is 10, then protective function and phase failure protection. Now the difference between standard type and high braking type function, as the name suggests, high braking type function has the higher braking capacity. Rest everything is same features. Only difference being that the braking capacity is higher. And high braking instantaneous type function, it does not have any thermal release. It only has a magnetic release. And since it's a magnetic release, the protective function is short circuit. So I hope you understood. There are 3 types: standard type, high braking type function, and high braking instantaneous type function. Talking about the product lineup, we have 3 ampere frame size, 32, 63, 100, 3 types of braking capacity type. The rated installation voltage above 32 ampere frame size is 1000 volt, and similarly impulse voltage above 32 ampere frame size 8 kilovolt. Utilization category is category A for the AC3 duty type. And yeah, so now we will speak about the accessories. Now accessories for the MMS, there are 2 types. One is mounted on the left side, left mount, and one is for the right mount. For the left mount electrical auxiliaries, we have auxiliary switch, front mount, side mount, and then we have trip alarm and magnetic trip alarm switch. For the right mount, we have shunt release, UVR, and UVR with the switch. Additional accessories that we provide are the rotary type handles, and then enclosures, dial cover, insulation barrier. Lastly, talking about the direct adapters. Now, as I mentioned before, in the MetaSOL contactors, we have direct adapters and mounting unit. So if you want to directly connect an MMS with the MetaSOL contactors or with the mini contactors, you can go for direct adapter. If you want a separate mounting unit, you can go for the mounting unit. You can attach the module to connect the MMS with the contactor or with the mini contactor. So that was a brief on all the 3 components. And thank you for listening. Now I would request Mr. Rashid.
Thank you, Alminder. That's a very extensive range of products that LS Electric has to offer in control products. These products we have been is using in several applications. We have been supplying directly to OEMs, especially air conditioning, LG air conditioning being the world's largest in the top 3. They have been using a lot of our contactors, as well as refrigeration industries, escalator, elevator industries, OEMs like diesel generator manufacturers. We are also supplying to firefighting control panels, etc. So that is the range of products that we have. And for those who have joined in a little bit later, the full version is already available on Facebook and LinkedIn Live. You can always go back and see the session at later stage. Now coming to the most interesting topic and one of LS Electric's major portion, which is futuring smart energy. So it's a new business for us, and we have several products in this range. And to introduce us to that range and what are the offerings that we can do for into renewable energy, I would like to invite Henry Choi from LS Electric Middle East. Henry, you can continue.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Rashid. Thank you, Parminders. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Anu Che. I'm Regional Sales Manager of LS Electric Middle East. I hope everyone's safe and well during this time. Today, I will talk about LS Electric renewable energy solution, especially PV or photovoltaic and ESS or energy storage system. So this is a simple philosophy about today's subject. Basically, PV system transform natural solar energy to electric powers, while ESS or energy storage system keeps electric power to pursue it when it needs. So what is the benefit of photovoltaic, the module and the inverters, and plus ESS and the storage benefit system? As in short, first of all, it improves grid qualities and the fully controllable and the quick response and the flexibilities and PV plant generation adaptable to external variations such as irradiation and the consumption and also grid requirements and the penetration and increase the PV penetration, and lastly, cost effective for long-term base. So now, how solar energy is transformed to electric energy is by PM semiconductors. On the right side, you can see simple diagrams. This is a sun ray, and this is one simple solar cell. So when PV cell is exposed to sunlight, these solar cells basically are composed of two different types of semiconductors. One side is P-type and the other side is N-type. They are joined together to create a PN junction. By doing that, there is electric field is formed in this region, and when sunlight goes into this cell, it actually divides into two parts, electron and the hole. So basically, electron side move to positive, and the holes move to negative side. And in the end, it is create different voltage, and finally create electric currents in the cell. And a photovoltaic has particularly specific characteristic as method of the generation, and it has polarities. So the only possible way is DC generation. So think about it, how we use our electricity in daily life is basically AC. So what is necessary is inverting system. What it means, from the DC to AC after photovoltaic generation. Also, PV is highly dependent on weather condition. So you cannot control weather condition. So in the end, ESS and the storage system usually coming as a package deal to keep more sustainable energy management. So I have arranged here some pros and cons by using the PV system. The next slide is showing all the application that we have now and probably for futures as well, is on the ground and on the rooftop and the building and on the waters and on the desert. So in the MENA areas, we are usually going for this desert type on the right side in the middle, and tracker type. So what it does, when sun ray, sometimes peak time and off time, it's just tracing, the amount of the sun ray. So I want to give one example. Is recently and very recent years, the Diva, which is a utility in the Dubai side, they are surprisingly made a 25 years deal and the PV PPA or power purchase agreements for Mohammed bin Rashid's phase 4, which was capacity is 900 megawatts. So recent years, this is getting a trend. More solar farm and a more utility level up to 1 gigawatts. They have that. They just made a world cheapest tariff of the PV history, which was 1.7 cent, 1.7 cent per kilowatt hours, and they just purchased it and they resell it 2.5 cents. It was contracted by Saudi Arabian energy company Aqua Power. So now the PV inverters, now we understand the PV inverter is necessary to make DC to AC, from the module to either grid or load. So on the right side, I have arranged these three factors that PV inverters, the manufacturers usually focus on. And first of all, efficiencies, how to maximize installation efficiency and obviously cost and the reliability for better maintenance. So if you're looking at the market size, PV inverters in 2018, it was total size approximately 7.54 billion US dollar, which is around 50% of the total PV total market size. And other 85%, probably not the people get curious about it. A majority part is coming from the solar module, and also big portion is a contracting as well. So now we can see the PV market is growing up because all the countries, they acknowledge that like somehow this other sources like coal will be sometimes will decrease. So the people are focusing on this PV and any renewable resources, and we can expect it will grow until 2016 with rate of 20% every year to reach 223.3 billion US dollars. And also now the trend is changing. The utility solar farm is changing to PPA, which means power purchase agreements, which means the private power producer, they just purchase it and owning and operating, they reselling to utility company. Now this is two different type of PV inverters, photovoltaic inverters. They have two types. One is a string type on the upper side, and the central type is downside. And what makes this difference between two is basically size. And the string type is usually smaller capacities, under let's say 250 kilowatts, and this is more suitable for residential and the commercial or industrial. And one central type is much bigger and more into solar farm. And what is the benefit of centralized system is a cloud shading behavior. And this is more suitable for large plant and the great area. They need more the great areas, and in the end, and as a benefit, they decrease the variation. They decrease the power PV power variation. So in the end, this is more good. I mean, this is better for efficiency. So now I want to talk about energy storage system. Energy storage system concept is pretty same with the PV inverters. Only different thing is here, instead of PV inverter, we have PCS, power conditioning system. And basically ESS, energy storage system, means any system storing heat or location or mobility energy. But in this case, in our business, we particularly define as a battery type battery-based ESS. We call it BAS, to charge and discharge in order to keep system as convenient as possible. So now looking at the power conditioning system, and this is basically two-way. And we talk about PV inverters. They were they were transforming from the DC to AC. And this PCS, they're doing the both way, from the DC to AC and AC to DC as well. Why we need to transforming the power from the AC to DC is that we actually need to charge from the grid. So when the uptime AC power grid through vacuum circuit breakers, we call it here, medium voltage switchgear, and transformer panel through the low voltage. This is up to here is AC. You need to charge this battery by what? By PCS. They're converting from the AC to DC to charge this battery. So battery, we need this system, the BMS. BMS means battery management system. They manage each battery cell It actually monitors the voltage and the status of the charging battery cell and make a balance and protect overcharging and communicate with PMS to protect the switching in case of the short circuit or overload. So here's we can see the PMS. PMS means power monitoring system or power management system. They control voltage and frequency, etc. Um, just knowing that here's the battery. We are not manufacturing batteries itself, but we do have partnership, strategic partnership with our sister company, with LG Chemical, also with Samsung SDI as well. Both of them, they are world top 5 battery manufacturers. They're using lithium-ion type. The battery is approximately lifetime is 15 years, which is long enough. So now I I have arranged all the concept and all these the maps of what kind of products is being used and each type. So from the PV module, we have PV array circuit combiner box. So here this combiner box, they basically use DC application from the generation level. So we do have DC MCCD, and also we do have DC MCB, this SPD, and we do have a combiner box as well. And then the backup battery charge controller. We don't have these products, the charge controller directly, but also we have OEM partner to supply this as well. And now the ground fault and the protection and DC protection, usually this coming together. We do have DC ACB and this connector as well. Now I want to focus on this part as well. It has been 1000 DC voltage, but the recent year it has been upgraded and it has been changes also from the standard level on to 1500 DC volts. So for following this trend, we have DC ACB up to 3200 ampere. And for disconnect, we have disconnected switch. We do have a 4000 ampere with 1500 DC volt. So from here, we have a battery system and inverters, the system as well. And then from there, we do have AC protection and the AC switching. And in case of this AC protection, now is trend, the capacity is increasing. So in case of the between 250 and the 500 kilowatts, they need 1600 ampere MCCB and also 1200 ampere flame contactors based on AC3 duty. So we do have actually until 1200 amperes AC3 duty type. So this is probably the good for one of our distributors they can deal with. So next, I'd like to introduce some about information about the Korea power market. This is a little notion of the Korea power market. So this is basically showing the Korea's plan to boost renewable energy resources. So from the 7% out of the total generation of 570 gigawatt hours. In 2018, this is the figure of the 2018, but we do have planned these sources to increase to 20% by 2030. Basically, this is the same direction that LS Electric is looking forward to. So how to implement this idea into our realities? This is a detailed plan discussed during 8th National Electricity Plan to make renewable sources to reach, which is 20%, as a figure is 58.5 gigawatt by 2030. So for doing that, we have very specific and a very interesting formula. And I'm not talking about under 1 megawatts, the power producer. I'm talking about over 1 megawatt the business. The power producers. This is called REC. REC stands for Renewable Energy Certificate. So any private power producer from the renewable energy resource, basically 1000 kilowatt hours kilowatt hour, that equal to 1 REC, right? So they do have this kind of thing as something like a stock market, right? So they produce the power and they resell to utility in Korea. It's called the KEPCO, right? Then they have a formula how to multiply. For example, if you are producing the power from the floating solar, they have here the figure of 1.5 times. So for example, if you produce 1,000 kilowatt hours, you have 1.5 REC. But if you look at these figures, solar with energy storage system, they have at least 4 times or 5 times, which means government-wise they appreciate and that they more see high efficiency from the using energy storage system. So this is one of the benefits if you use a PV plus storage system. And from this chart, we can see energy storage system application. This is all of application that we have. Those are simply saying the renewable integration and smoothing in order to make unpredictable renewable resource to be stable with using storage system, and the frequency regulation for traditional grid to save coal costs and to increase the quality of electricity for utilities, and finally peak shaving or load labeling for emergency in commercial and residential area. So I would like to explain one by one with our reference. So first of all, load labeling and the peak shaving and the renewable integration. This is two, it looks like different, but actually it is the same thing. Only different thing is the left side, they're connected to grid. And the right side, they're connected to PV side, PV or any renewable side. Those are two different things. So left side, when they're connected to grid, during the night time, the storage system they charge. And on the peak time in a day, like for example 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., and this storage system they discharge in order to compensate and the cost. All right. And then when it comes to renewable integration, basically the concept of the PV, whenever they on in the energy level, during the daytime, actually the PV they're only working average 3.6 hours a day. So they storage system, once PV they generate the powers, this is the first order storage system they charge, and during the nighttime they discharge. So basically time is different, but on the concept is pretty much same. So probably the people get curious about how to calculate of the size of the size of the PCS or size of the battery size. As I mentioned, usually for in terms of the PV, they have around approximately 3.6 hours a day. So usually they go 2 or 3 times of PV capacity to make a battery size. So here you have like here's the PV, the capacity is 1 megawatt. Then the battery size and the PC size is the 3 megawatt hour. So next application is a frequency regulation, and this is always, this is usually used from substation level of utility company. So this is what it does is basically to increase the total capacity of the generation. For example, if you look at this chart, and demand is pretty much the fluctuating. It doesn't go beyond the limits all the time, but critical time they just go beyond. So ESS, energy storage system, they just put here as extra in order to reduce fuel costs for the generation. And here I just mentioned the gas and coal in Korea at the per kilowatt hour that it costs sometimes the more than the 15 cents as well. So next application is a stabilization of predictable irregular output of renewable energy output. Basically, all the wind and the PV generation, they have pretty much fluctuation. So by using energy storage system, you can control, you can have the ramp rate control. So this is a soothing control. So after they apply with energy storage system, the PV power plants is ratio of the time plus ratio of the powers and multiply with conventional power station. And lastly, we can also supply this storage system instead of diesel gas generators or UPS. So here in this chart, when ESS connected with grid, when blackouts has happened, basically diesel generator, it takes time, right? But energy storage system, it doesn't have that much of the delay. It just immediately goes back to the load demands and get stabilized. So now I have explained all the application and all these uses. Now I'd like to focus on some of our references. And LS Electric, we have more than 400 megawatts of energy storage installed. These are many of our references, mainly in Korea and some of in Japan. So this is approximately around the 25% of the total capacity which has been implemented in Korea based on the 2018. So as I mentioned earlier slides, because most of our references coming from Korea and this Asia area, and back in 2018 we have mergers. We have acquired one of the biggest ESS manufacturer is up in America, Perconapin EGT division. We have renamed as LS Energy Solutions. So with this Perconapins, the new name of LSES, we have now more than 800 megawatts energy storage installed in the world. So this is one of the energy storage reference that we have. Importantly, in Japan, that was PV plus ESS system as a package deal. In Japan, it was built on operating the bike KIPCO for 20 years of time. So we are actually the contracting as well. So the second reference is our first US energy storage system project in Maryland, and it was for the microgrid application for 1.7 megawatts. And this is our lineup of PV module and the PV inverter and energy storage system. So these are pretty much all our lineup for renewable energy. And we do have the PV module as monocrystallines, the 3 different type, and the PV inverters, one phase, single phase, and 3 phase up to 550 kilowatts, and the energy storage system as well, and plus service and after sales support. So this is our lineup for PCS and battery system, storage system. And these 2 items we manufacture from America and US. And this industrial suitable size we manufacture in Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Henry. I believe now we are all enlightened by the range of products that LS Electric have. This is a new dimension of our business, especially featuring smart energy. Before we go into the question and answer session, I would like to run a small feedback poll, and I appreciate if all the participants can give us your feedback. This will help us to improve ourselves. appreciate if all of you can, I think it will be on your screen. You can just run it for 20 more seconds. I would appreciate if all of you can just put in your feedback on this. Okay, at the same time, I will start the question and answer session as well. If anybody has a particular question, you can raise the hand symbol, and I can allow you to come and we can take the questions directly. Is there anybody who would like to ask a question? Please raise your hand or just in the question and answer session, I could see Mr. Ali Al-Noman, who's asked one question. Would you like to? If the answer is sufficient, or if you need to ask any particular question, we are online. To ask the question, just use the raise the hand button, and I can take you online. If anybody would like to, yes, I think Mr. Hafiz, I have unmuted you. You can ask a question. Can you hear me? Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Hafiz.
How are you, Mr. Rashid? Thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank
appreciate
you.
the usual cooperation and support, and keep us updated frequently. This will refresh also the previous information which the team have. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome always.
Second, I want to ask about the BBC.
Okay.
Could they ask for quotation or for something else, or it is only supply the material only?
For the PV modules, you mean, right?
Yes.
Yes. We can offer quotations for PV modules separately as well. We do have a PV module lineup, and as far as my knowledge, we can offer. If Henry, you would like to put in some information on the PV modules.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complete solution, or it is only supplying only the PV sheets. And you can build the system completely.
Yeah, he will. I think Henry will reply to you. You need to unmute Henry. You're on mute right now. You're unmute yourself, Henry. You're still on mute. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, for PV module, we have these three types. I believe your question was if you can get support for contracting these. So up to now, we're mainly was doing the Korea and the Japan and the US side, for contracting wise. And we can give advice of how to perform in terms of the contracting. But in your case, since we don't have the facilities out there in the Saudi Arabia, and we need to have we need to have other people, other entities who are doing the contracting up there. So that that we can give our engineering study to them. But if you ask me if we are doing the contracting directly to Saudi Arabia, no, it's not yet. But we are ready to do any partnership for that local contracting for this kind of PV construction job.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Reed. Thank you very much. We will send the inquiry for you so as to check how we can proceed further with this inquiry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are open for any other questions. If anybody would like to ask any questions, we are here. At the same time, the same webinar is available on Facebook and LinkedIn, LS Electric Middle East. You can always. Okay, if there is any more further questions. Mr. Ali Al-Noman, I've just unmuted you if you want to ask your question. Hello, you can hear me? I think there are three, you're connected from 3 devices. Can you hear me now or? Okay, I think we are almost through for the day. Thank you for your participation. Just Mr. Lee, you're online or you would like to? Okay. Hello. Yeah, Mr. Ali. Walaikum salam. Yes.
1 minute, please.
Yeah. Walaikum salam. Yes, Mr. Ali.
Yes, how are you, Mr. Rashid?
I'm fine, thank you. Good.
Yeah, we faced this problem before, okay, for MMS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we give to customer and he see in the catalog, okay, that MMS protect against
phase failure.
Phase failure.
Yes.
But actually, okay, he returned back okay, the material later on. Because we didn't. What's
the phase failure? Phase failure is actually inbuilt. It's a relay when it's supposed to work when the phase. I mean, if there is no supply in the phase, so there is inbuilt relay. But there are 3 types of MMS basically. I think the phase failure is inbuilt in 2 types. There is a S type, H type, and the high H type. So so you need to get in touch with us. We will check with our factory global support team why it has happened, because phase failure is supposed to be inbuilt in the MMS of H type and HI type. So just let us know the thing. We will get back to you what exactly we can test from our side and confirm to you as well.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, dear. Anybody else for any questions? Okay, Mr. Lee, are you online? Okay, I think he's on another meeting. So thank you everyone for joining. And we will keep in touch once again with other webinar. Thank you for all the Mr. Henry Choi, Mr. Nirmal Parmar, and Palminder Dhillon joining us from LS Electric Europe. Thank you very much. Mas salama.